Hey Glam Fam, Linwood here. The purpose of this channel has always been to help people and to help them get healthier hair at whatever their price point or their level of cost is. Now, this video is a little bit more difficult to film primarily because often the ones suffering from this condition feel hopeless, and I definitely want to combat that. So my efforts in this video is to spread awareness, to take away that feeling of taboo when it comes down to the discussion about this issue. That being said, let's start this video. So, of course, if you click this video, you notice that the title is What is Trichotillomania? And I have been wanting to do this video for a while, but I didn't quite know how I wanted to discuss it. I'm going to give you as much information as I possibly can in a very condensed amount of time. And so I want to make sure that I'm using this for the right reasons. That being said, should you choose to comment below, please make sure that your comments are supportive, that they are uplifting, and they're encouraging for those who may struggle with this condition. This is not an attempt to try to make fun of or bash this condition in any type of way, shape, or form. If anything, this is to create a forum that is positive, supportive, and is helping these people to potentially improve through this condition and know that it's not something that is taboo or something that they're going through by themselves. Trichotillomania is often known as a hair pulling disorder. It can often be attached to anxiety, it can be attached to depression, it can be attached to OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder. And basically what happens is a lot of times when people are feeling increased senses of anxiety, stress, fear, things like that, they can actually have issues where they begin to pull at certain hairs, be it at the eyebrows, the eyelashes, the hair on the scalp, and it's increasingly common. The current statistics for this condition or this disorder is 1 in 50 people. Now that is just those that are diagnosed. There are several more people that likely struggle with this condition that have not been diagnosed out of fear or embarrassment. Out of the 1 in 50 people that it impacts, it tends to impact females even more so. We don't necessarily know why. It does impact both male and female, but you do see it more prevalently among females. That being said, often you'll see it onset between the ages of 9 and 13, and it tends to get worse during menopause for some individuals. This can be a condition that troubles people for much of their life, or it can also be brought on by traumatic experiences such as loss, extreme grief, social anxiety. Now, this is often tied to anxiety, stress, overwhelm, depression, or OCD. So oftentimes you'll see that someone who is struggling with trichotillomania or has an inability to stop pulling their hair out, you'll see it a lot of times. It will be coupled with one of these disorders. A lot of times it's not something that you tend to see strictly by itself. This disorder is often shrouded by embarrassment, and so a lot of times people will not talk about it, or they'll use wigs to cover it up, they'll use toppers, they'll use hair extensions, false eyelashes, things like that to prevent their family and their loved ones, even their peers, their coworkers, or even their friends from seeing the condition or how severe the condition has gotten. Now, as I stated earlier, often this condition can be triggered during puberty and can worsen during menopause. So that's something to be very careful of, making sure that you are being checked by the doctor and making sure that your hormones are as balanced as possible. In some instances can help this condition. As far as treatment options go, you can develop a calming routine, find things to help keep your hands busy. You can also go through different practices in terms of prayer, meditation, mindfulness practices, incorporating exercise, different routines that kind of keep you busy in other ways in order to kind of be able to combat this a bit. In some instances, you will see that it is best to go and seek counseling and talk to a therapist, especially someone who deals with mental or social-emotional disorders a bit more and can help you out with being able to change certain habits that are more detrimental to your health, especially if you have the form of trichotillomania where you're not just pulling your hair out, but in some cases, patients are pulling hair out and ingesting the hair as well. A lot of times you can see issues with extreme weight loss, with blockages to the bowels, with severe pain, sometimes surgery, or even death if the condition should proceed and continue. So it's important that we do seek these treatment options if needed in order to be able to get you the best help possible should this be something that you struggle with. Now, some also benefit from support groups, either personal or online, just to be able to share their experiences, to share their stories, share their triggers with other people who relate and understand what it's like to go through these different things. A lot of times with this disorder, you can feel ostracized or like you're misunderstood, like no one quite knows where you're coming from, and oftentimes you feel judged or embarrassed about the condition. This is not something that you should be embarrassed about, but a lot of times people in their ignorance have a tendency to make you feel this way. So this video is an effort to be able to educate people so that way less people can go through this struggle on a daily basis. Now, the benefits of working with a counselor or a therapist is that oftentimes they can help you find healthful or healthy solutions to the problem, allowing you to get down to the root of the issue. If it is from extreme loss, if it is from childhood trauma or from pain, things like that, where you could potentially overcome this through counseling or through grief counseling, it is a great way for you to be able to utilize them as a tool for your betterment and for your health. So I definitely don't want to stigmatize counseling. I don't want to stigmatize therapy, and we definitely don't want to stigmatize trichotillomania. This is something that in some instances can be treated and you can get better from, but usually there has to be a deep set why, and there's got to be some assistance or some help along the way. In some more extreme instances, people have had to seek medical attention, start on medications, especially if it is accompanied by depression, by anxiety, or by OCD. A lot of times these disorders are onset by other triggers and sometimes need some additional help with combating them. And I would encourage you to be able to talk to an experienced doctor with these sort of issues to be able to best find a solution that works for you, your body's chemistry, and your current circumstance and your situation. Now, sometimes it can be as simple as pulling away from stressful instances, limiting your exposure to stressful environments, or finding out what your social triggers are. So I do want to let you know about a tool that exists as well. This tool is called the Keen Trichotillomania bracelet. It is made by Habit Aware. And what it is a bracelet that syncs by Bluetooth to your phone or your mobile device, and it goes on your wrist. It looks just like a Fitbit or a fitness tracker, and what it does is it is able to sync and know when it is that you are picking, and in some instances it'll be picking at the hair or picking at the skin. It also has settings on there for nail biters as well as for people who have issues with touching their face, with breakouts, things like that, where you can set it to your issues that you wanted to tackle, and it will give you a reminder, usually by vibration, just to kind of let you know, and so you can be aware that you are currently going through this episode of picking, and that way you can understand and begin to realize that maybe it's from boredom, perhaps it's from a certain social trigger, perhaps it's from anxiety, and help you get down to the bottom of it. It even has a visual reminder on there when you're having these episodes and helps you to go through deep breathing exercises to be able to calm and settle yourself back down should anxiety be the cause of the issue. I'll link it in the description box down below if that's something that you're interested in as a potential aid or a help to the problem, should that be something that you are looking for as well. Now, if you are a loved one of someone that potentially suffers with this condition, there are a few things that you should know and that you should be aware of. Because it is so shrouded by embarrassment, there's an importance behind you understanding and you making an attempt to understand what it is that your loved one is going through. It's important that you don't ask them things like, why don't you just stop? If they could, they would. This isn't usually something that they want to do, but it's often described as being like scratching an itch, or like a feeling of relief that comes after the sense of anxiety, the sense of stress, or the sense of overwhelm. This is not something that they are doing just because they want to. It's not quite that simple. This is an addictive feeling that a lot of times, like, I want you to imagine if you had a mosquito bite, you know you probably shouldn't scratch it because you could scratch the skin open, but a lot of times it feels so good to you that you really cannot stop. And a lot of times in these instances, it's very much similar. Even if you ask them to stop or you tell them to stop picking, a lot of times it does not make them stop picking. It just makes them stop doing it in your presence. It makes them hide it from you that much more. It doesn't allow you to see the warning signs should it get dangerous, and it causes them to feel even more of a sense of embarrassment and disconnect from you as their loved one. It's also important not to ask them, why don't you just relax? Asking them something like that is a bit more difficult, especially considering that everyone's condition is not the same. It's not always as a result of stress. It's not always as a result of anxiety. Sometimes it can be due to boredom or due to overwhelm or extenuating circumstances that are out of that individual's control. That being said, telling them to relax is not always beneficial and sometimes can stress people out even more so. It's like when you are upset or on the verge of being upset and someone tells you to calm down. It usually makes things worse. That being said, sometimes just being around that person and showing them the support and the love that they need is enough to kind of help them come to that point of relaxation. It's enough to kind of help them realize that they have a support system, they have a help, and they have people around them that care about them and love them regardless of this condition. They care about the person that this individual is on the inside, and they are trying to help them come to a solution that is healthy for them, both mentally, physically, and emotionally. Another important thing to note is that you may not want to point out that they're pulling unless they've specifically asked you to do so and they're committed to trying to do better about the condition. A lot of times feeling like they're being policed by someone who is around them in their circle, things like that, only makes them more self-conscious and only makes them feel like they're being more judged for their condition or for struggling with this condition. That being said, unless they've asked you to help hold them accountable, please come to them with a point of understanding, with a point of love, and be gracious and merciful towards them. A lot of times this is something that is a bit out of their control, but there are ways that you can help in terms of being that grounding center for them, helping them to find ways to calm their nerves, be it through massage, be it through meditation, calming exercises, yoga, things like that. There are ways that you can partner with them, but a lot of times it allows them to be transparent with you and say, okay, this is what I'm struggling with, and this is what I find helps me. A lot of times if you notice that they're picking, instead of saying, hey, you're picking, you should stop, maybe making a suggestion of, hey, why don't we do some yoga exercises? Why don't we go ahead and meditate? Let's talk about how you feel. Let's work this out. Things like that are a bit more supportive, and they're a way to be able to show that person from a place of compassion and care that you love them and you genuinely care about their well-being without making them feel judged for what they're presently going through. Now, there are some long-term effects to this disorder or this condition that you should know about, and this is why I feel like it's important to seek help early on and to see if there are treatment options for you in order to be able to combat the issue. Some of those issues that you may see could be something as simple as scarring of the skin, scarring of the scalp, an inability to regrow hair on the brows, the lashes, on the hair, things like that. They do have different things if you're in that stage of stopping and you're trying to grow that hair back out, where you can use a topper. I would encourage you to Google search hair toppers. It's literally like a hairpiece that fits right on top of your head. They are usually very natural looking. Most people are not even able to tell. They do have, for people who do not have the monetary ability to do that, they do have a spray called Topic, which is a graphite spray that you can spray into the hair that makes it look thicker and helps to disguise the areas that are thinner or that are regrowing due to that hair being pulled. Another long-term effect can be a lack of self-esteem. That's also where a lot of times these hair pieces and things can be a help. Artificial eyelashes, things like that can be a help, especially as you're recovering, because you don't feel like people are looking at your condition. Sometimes you feel more like people are looking at you, and it helps to have people in your corner that love you regardless, that see your beauty regardless of what it is that you're presently battling with. A lot of times you'll see people with this condition that are either socially distancing themselves on a regular basis. They are limiting intimacy in their life, be it both romantic intimacy and personal intimacy, just because of the fear of being judged or the fear of people not quite understanding what it is that they're going through. That being said, if you are someone who has struggled or currently struggles with this condition and you feel comfortable with leaving some of your story in the comment sections down below, just so that way other people can understand a bit more of what this condition is like, and other people who potentially are battling this issue can see that they're not alone, I highly encourage you to do so. Those who do not have this condition or do not have a loved one that they know of with this condition, I would encourage you to read through the comments and use it as a learning experience so you can understand the condition a bit more. That way, when you encounter someone that has this, you're not looking at them from a place of judgment or making jokes out of it, making them feel like they are less than a human being, because they are still people and they still emote and feel like the rest of us. And a lot of this feels like it's outside of their realm of control. The last thing I want to do is to see people struggle with their health and literally have their life in the balance due to extreme depression as a result of a condition like this. That's why you don't see me inserting any jokes in this video. That's why you don't see me trying to make light of the situation, because this is something where often people suffer in silence, and a lot of times it can lead to very deadly consequences. That being said, please approach any comments that you leave from a place of love, care, compassion, and support. As always, thank you so much for watching. Take care. God bless. And stay glam. You know I love you, bro.